This is the Baymont Podcast with Marty Solomon. I'm his co-host, Brent Billings. Today, we are back for our review of The Chosen with a discussion on the 6th episode of Season 2.
Season 2, Episode 6. Man, I think I like this episode too for a whole nother different kind of list of reasons, Brent. I think I'm really a fan of what they're doing with Season 2. I'm trying to think, is this another just like character stage setting episode, or is there a whole lot of text in this one? I don't really think there is there?
I mean, right at the end, you do get a good chunk of Matthew 12.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay, yep. Yeah, I'm a sucker for this character building stuff. I just like what they're doing and everything else. So, yeah, I'm ready to. I don't know if I have a whole lot of notes in front of me, but let's get into it and see what's there.
So we start off, we're in Nob, I guess is how I would have always said this before, but I think maybe it's Nove. Is that how you pronounce this place?
Oh, I always just say Nob in the English, but I'd have to look at it in the Hebrew now that I'm qualified to do so to see what the valuation there is. But
well, anyway, so we're in Israel. They put us at 1008 BC, which is interestingly specific, but I like it. We have some parents. They're arguing about how their child is sick. He's on like day 5 of a fever or whatever. And the dad's optimistic. The mom is more concerned. I think it's definitely a relatable set of attitudes in my household. So anyway, the dad ends up taking his second son to go deal with the showbread. Turns out he is a priest, and he is Ahimelech, and his son is Aviathar. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but something like that.
Yep.
So they're going through the whole process. He's teaching his kid how to change everything. The kid's asking funny questions like, well, why didn't God eat the bread? He's like, well, God doesn't actually need the bread. This is a symbol, blah, blah, blah. And then a man comes barging in asking for food. Turns out it's David. And this is the point where he is hungry and needs some food, and he's gonna ultimately take this sacred bread. And Ahimelech appeals to Torah, and David appeals to Pikuach Nefesh. Is that right?
Boy, now you say the first one, I'm not sure.
He said it in the episode, and I can't remember exactly what it was. Whatever he said sounded right, but
I mean, the last word of that is going to be soul, not nefesh. So, and then what they have is they have this discussion about life, like the value of the law versus, which, I mean, what they're talking about, I have very serious doubts would have existed in the days of David, but they're having a very, legitimate Jewish legal argument over, what we're going to call later, and even later in this episode, the weightiness of the law. And so David is appealing to some kind of soul care, not soul. We wouldn't say soul care. We'd say life, like the weightiness of life, the preservation of life, and so you can follow Torah, but you can also preserve life. Which one is weightier? And the priest is going to make his priestly ruling in his actions that follow. But that's the conversation they're having, is law says this, and David's response is essentially, yeah, but righteousness says this. And that's the conversation.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So ultimately he does provide the bread. They exchange the fact that this is life-threatening for him to do this for David. But an interesting diversion from the biblical text is he does not actually get the sword of Goliath at this point, which I don't know why he would need it necessarily in the context of the show, but just a note.
What an interesting grab, Brent. Wow. I didn't even think about that, but you're spot on. Yeah.
Yeah. So he runs off, and then we're into the credits. then Simon is waking up in a stable. He has a piece of straw in his mouth, spits that out, gets up. Matthew's already working on a plan to find Mary, asks Simon about breakfast. Simon realizes that Matthew did not put down fresh straw when he slept, and so he is covered in some sort of animal stuff. And
excrement.
Yeah, Matthew has a reasonable reaction to that, as you might imagine,
especially for Matthew.
Yeah. So ultimately, Simon does start to work on breakfast, even though he's like, I don't cook, I don't do anything with that. And he kind of comes to realize, like, if I don't do something, I'm not going to eat anything today. So they're discussing what they know. A Roman soldier stumbles by. He's totally drunk still from whatever celebration. He mentions Dionysus, I think.
Yeah, the god of wine and orgy. I think we probably talked about Dionysius before. And I mean, he could have been referencing something else. When I first heard that in passing, I assumed he meant he had been out drinking and Dionysius was carrying him and got him home.
Yeah, I think that would have been one of our Revelation episodes, probably. Back in session 4, I think.
Golly, that probably would have been a few other places, actually.
Yeah.
Dionysius probably comes up more in session 3.
Oh, really?
Session 3. I don't know. Could come up in a lot of places.
All this stuff gets mixed up in my head, Marty. I don't know what's going on most of the time.
Mine too.
Yeah, so Simon tries to help him, and he doesn't really want his help, so it's like, okay, whatever. Then we're back at I don't know if we're in the camp, but Mother Mary is walking with Rhema and kind of teaching her about how to find food. And they discuss what it means for Jesus' time to have come. And Rhema's kind of, still concerned about Mary and her safety. And she's like, well, why can't Jesus just bring her back? And then Mary quotes Psalm 20 to comfort her. And then we jump to Mary in the tavern, and she's gambling apparently quite successfully, drinking quite a bit apparently. Makes a comment about how if the guy wants to win his money back, it's going to be behind the bar. But she kind of gets into, this bad situation where this dude's pretty upset about losing all of his money. And, she kind of fights back, and he gets up, and the owner of the tavern kind of stops him. But meanwhile, she's having this kind of flashback to this moment with her dad. And he's like, what do we do when we say, what do we do when we're scared? We say the words. But okay, so this is my perspective. I feel like in this moment, she can't remember what the words are that she's supposed to say when she's scared. And that freaks her out. And she runs away. She leaves the money on the table and just like totally abandons the whole situation. I was watching the Chosen YouTube director reaction to this, and he's saying her perspective was she's realizing at this moment all of these guys around the table are not the people she should be with. She should be with the disciples, the other disciples, but she's with all these guys who don't mean anything to her, and she wants to get out of there. She obviously doesn't feel like she can go straight back to them, but she does feel like she needs to get out of there. So apparently I did not read the scene as it was intended to be read.
I would say I was somewhere maybe in the middle, leaning director's way. Maybe I felt like how I was seeing it was she knew the words, she was having that memory, but the shame, like what she's going to deal with that whole episode, she was too ashamed to say the words, to step into that space, and so she just ran because she was feeling like that wasn't her. She had screwed that up. She couldn't say those words. It just fit with the rest of the narrative of the episode that I was seeing. But that's how I took it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll throw that video in the show notes if anyone wants to see Dallas's comments on that.
Beautiful.
So then we have Thomas. He is counting out the remaining food that they have at the camp, and Andrew is kind of off to the side. He's concerned about Philip, and they have this discussion about what it means to have enough, whether money is a good thing to deal with at all. Andrew's perspective from his time with John is like, money's this totally human construct, bad thing. Like, we don't do anything with it at all. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, Thomas is intrigued as Simon the Zealot comes out of his tent and starts doing his morning exercises. And James and John are chopping wood. They also take note of Simon's exercises. And I just love this conversation between the two of them. John's commenting that he almost joined the Zealots, but they have enough rules already. And they're like, yeah, the 613, and then all these prayers and all this stuff. And then to add all of these exercise things on top of it, like, well, it's too much. And I was like, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, absolutely. I like their conversation as well. The note I have is when you're probably not there yet quite in their conversation, but when he says, the way he's given him his whole self to this one singular focus, and it's not just going to change overnight. And I thought, man, what a beautiful comment as you consider this havara of disciples, where they're coming from. Some of them maybe, and like I think it's big, or it's John that says, you think of little James, you think of Thaddeus. For some of these, it's easier than others, and I there's probably some truth to that. The journeys they have to go on, and these things aren't going to change overnight, but ultimately they aren't going to all become one uniform thing together. They're always going to have these aspects of their personality. I just thought that was a really cool statement, a line of dialogue there that I liked.
Yeah, I think they all kind of struggle with why they're there necessarily. But that discussion specifically is like what they're coming out of, and that contrast where it's like, little James and Thaddeus didn't really have a whole lot going on anyway. Like, it was easy for them to pick up and leave and not feel like they're leaving anything behind. But Simon spent all of this time dedicated to this thing, and clearly he has not let it go yet. Like, he's up doing all of his exercises. He doesn't have his dagger with him right now, but he's going to continue to be ready for what he's always trained for so many years.
Yeah. And then the next part of their conversation, I just really loved. They make the note about, and why in the world did Jesus pair up Simon, Peter, and Matthew? Like, those two don't go together at all. It's like oil and water. And then, but then Big James like makes this comment about, but to be honest, it's not just that I don't understand. It's and I thought about following on the heels of our last episode with Reed in the Gospel of John. Like, he makes this comment about, there's a whole lot of things I don't understand. And to be honest, I'm just following. And that conversation is rooted in the same kind of thing that Reed and you and I were talking about, which is it's rooted in a deeper experience. They know that they've tasted and seen something. They know that they believe in something, and yet they don't understand so much. And I thought, on the heels of what we had just done in last week's conversations, I thought, man, what a great little conversation they have there in camp.
Yeah, and one other line in there, they were talking about like they're bringing it home, like, hey, we don't have a position to stand on here. We've had our moments too. Our sons of thunder. We got this thing, and what is Ema going to think when she hears this story? And John says, hey, well, maybe she'll be glad we got a title.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Knowing the context of later in the Gospels too, that's great.
Yeah, I love those little setups for those things that we know are coming later. It's like we don't have anything else to that story except that one little moment, and so adding in this little bit of backstory to it is really great.
Well, and I don't even know how much whether they'll forget about it, or even if they don't come back to it. Like, I'm literally thinking, will they come back to all this stuff later in the series? But even if they don't, just still so wonderful. Wonderful little textual biddles dropped in there. Yeah.
We know they're not covering every single portion of every bit of narrative that happens in Scripture. So, yeah, maybe they won't bring it back up, but we know it's there. We know it's in the background.
Yep.
And so we can appreciate it now either way.
A cultural remez, if you will.
So then we're back in town. Simon and Matthew are heading down the stairs to the tavern. Simon's like, let me go first. Matthew's reciting his Psalm 139 passage, which is great. It's like, man, just one line that Philip gave them, and it has been so useful for him, for everyone.
Yep.
They find out that Mary has moved on, so they go outside, they start developing a new plan, and then boom, Mary's sitting right there, calls out to them. They don't even have to look for her, but she's totally in despair. Matthew's encouraging her. Simon realizes like, oh yeah, I can point some things out too. And then Matthew at one point in the conversation acknowledges his own problems to some extent, and Simon kind of perks up at that, like, oh, Matthew realizes, so I think, probably more to come on that later, but there is that moment where things start to, maybe the wall starts to fall down between them just a little bit.
Yeah. Again, one of my favorite spots of this episode, probably one of my favorite spots of the whole season, is this scene just from an emotional, artistic perspective. Even before they find Jesus, Matthew's line, if you were cut off from Jesus.
Before they find Mary, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. What did I say? Before they find
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Before they found Mary. And he says, if you were cut off from Jesus, wouldn't you want to be, to get back quickly? I thought that was really good. You can see it sink in with Peter. Like, oh yeah, I get that. I know there's a whole lot of relating. Like this is like a scene of empathy, like everybody connecting directly, indirectly. You can see them like relating to one another. Mary's statement about I'm broke again. And then Mumser Matthew, I have in my notes. Mumser Matthew steps in because he knows how to speak that language. And he just refuses to stop affirming who she is and her place in the story and what God's doing through her, has done through her. That mistake, a blip on the screen compared to the rest of the story that God's been telling over her, through her life over the last, however much time. And I just thought, man, how instructive is that to just affirm people's place in the story, affirm the good, speak truth in their life, tell them who they really are, their true identity, we would say in Christ, like whatever. Tell them who they really are, not who they seem to think they are. And just what a great little conversation.
Yeah, so then we see Shmuel walking and talking with Dunash. I don't know if his name is important, but I noted it just in case he comes back later. And this guy's saying like, he's obviously laying out his case against Jesus and his dealings on the Sabbath. And the guy's like, look, this case is actually pretty thin. He says, he's like, many, many people have invoked the title of Son of Man from Daniel. Like that's not really anything that's going to get us concerned necessarily. And you're not even totally sure that this is the same person in all these cases. Like this is not anything we can do about right now. He refers to Shimon as President Shimon, which I thought was an interesting title, but I guess, that's sort of what his position is in the Sanhedrin. I don't know whether they would use that term or if that term even existed at the time, but I think it communicates the right thing.
Yeah, probably as a decent translation of the idea. Yeah.
But he's like, hey, look, President Shimon does not deal with, these small types of matters. And the big issue is reforming the laws that are causing all this suffering for these marginalized people. It's like, oh my gosh, hello. What a great thing.
It's another one of those. Nobody's going to be surprised by this. It's another one of those stinking scenes I'm in love with where, they literally talk about the weightiness of the law. They talk about it exactly the way that we describe it in session 3. They use such a great example with the laws of marriage and how there's a whole school. And I love how they called it like reform. Yes, that historically represents it well. There's a whole school of Judaism saying the way we're doing things and the way we have done things is just not right. And the school of Hillel kind of winning over the day. But there is this tension, this tug of war. I just loved it. It was so well done. So well done.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to the fact that it is a council of people. It is not the almighty ruler, Shimon. It is President Shimon. He's just the leader amongst a group of people who all have a say in the matter.
Right.
And so he can't just do whatever he wants.
Yep.
But he's working on it. He's working towards this goal. So anyway, Shmuel and Yanni are dismissed, curtly. And then we see them back in their office of sorts, whatever it is, and they're devising a new plan. They're like, okay, I guess we got to go through Shammai and see if we can get something happening on that angle. And Yanni has this whole thing mapped out, and he knows exactly how it's going to work. He's like, we can make this happen. And Shmuel is kind of like in despair about all of the political dealings that are required to make this happen. Like, he still believes in what he's saying, but he's like, it's just, it's interesting to see how he's reacting to it on an emotional level. It's like, that is kind of how I feel about politics. It is really gross sometimes.
Well, I love how, obviously he's more of a villain character. Who knows where they're going to go through the series with this particular historically based fictional character, but they're showing a lot of his humanity. So he's not just this Pharisaic villain. It's somebody who has this idealism that we could relate to. Like they're not here just for the corruption of politics. He's here because he's actually devoted to something. He actually believes in something. He's disgusted by all this other stuff, just as the other side would be, but he's just got his own set of convictions and idealism, which is working against the agenda of Jesus, unfortunately for him. But yeah, it just shows it's a well-placed, it's well-placed character design. I like it.
And probably something that we'll see, play out in a similar way with Judas Iscariot. Like,
how dare you suggest such things? No, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, we'll get a lot more of Judas than we get in the Bible, but I think we're gonna see like, oh, he actually he has things behind whatever he's doing, like as misguided as they may be.
I'm super interested to see what they're gonna do, but we'll see.
All right, we will see. We don't know yet.
Can't you tell I'm still hanging on to so much like cynicism? I'm like, no. All my pessimistic attitudes. They can't get all of that right.
Well,
they're going to screw up something.
We were talking about this yesterday in a completely different context, but it's like, yeah, you shouldn't count all your chickens before they're hatched, So
absolutely. And I say all of that right tongue in cheek. Hopefully everybody knows that, as if I'm the one that knows what right was. I know what history looked like. I just have my opinions and convictions. So we'll see what they do. If I'll continue to love it, we'll find out.
Exactly. I'm optimistic, but yeah, like there's still 5 seasons left. So there's plenty of time for it to go downhill. So let's see. We're back at the camp. Simon, Matthew, and Mary arrive. Mary is welcomed very warmly by everyone, and we find out Philip has just returned right before that with news of John the Baptist being imprisoned. And Mother Mary takes Mary to see Jesus in his tent. Jesus is reassuring her. And, one of the lines that I loved, he says,
"Well, that's not much of a redemption if it can be lost in a day, is it?"
So many good comments made in that little bit.
This whole conversation is just a class in how to restore someone.
Yeah, some of the notes I have. She says, I can't something, and Jesus responds with, "I don't require much." And then I love the whole conversation about redemption, just so clever, and not like just clever in a beautifully restorative way, an edifying way. I love the line that she said, they don't do anything with it in the scene, but I still think it had a ton of power in it. They had to come get me.
I just don't think I can do it.
Do what?
Live up to it. Repay you. How could I leave? How could I go back to the place I was? And I didn't even come back on my own. They had to come get me.
I didn't even come back myself. They had to come get me. And I just thought,
yeah.
Like my internal heart voice said, oh, the church.
Isn't that the work we're supposed to be doing?
Oh, they finally did. Like, it's just a historical fiction drama scene, and I'm just like, oh, the church finally did what they're supposed to do. Oh, just so good. Way to go, Matthew and Peter. But man, I'm going to give Matthew props in the scene there. But man, they did it. They went and got them. They ran and found the prodigal. Love it.
Well, and jumping back to that scene where Matthew is, calling out all the good things in her. I love that Simon doesn't just stand by idly the whole time. Like, he's paying attention, and he thinks of his own story element where he saw Mary doing something good,
right.
And he jumps in there too. So he's not, obviously Matthew is the driver of that, but I love that Simon gets involved too, and he's paying attention. He's recognizing the work that's actually happening. So
100%.
Ultimately, after Jesus says, like, look, I don't require any of this craziness. I just want your heart, and the rest will follow. And he forgives Mary, and they hug. And then we see Matthew is listening from outside the tent. And then we're over with Andrew, and he's totally shaken up about John's imprisonment. And Simon the Zealot is like, well, we can break him out. And Philip's like, no, we're not going to do that.
He entertains it for a while. He takes a moment. He's like, yeah, I do like that idea. Well, that would be fun to watch. I am considering it. I guess not.
I didn't really take that as much of a consideration as him just being polite about saying no.
Maybe. I was surprised. I was like, is Philip really considering this? Is he really doing? Okay. Yeah.
So then we have Thomas coming to Jesus, and he's like, look, I know you got a lot of stuff on your mind, but we're totally out of food. And he's like, okay, no problem. We'll head out in the morning and we'll get some stuff. And so then the next morning they're walking, the whole group is walking to a synagogue in a small town. And Jesus is talking about how Mary needed help at the synagogue in Jericho, and they didn't give it to her. And who was it? Was it Jesus or what? Yeah, I think it was Jesus. He said, she's a woman, so she didn't expect to be helped, but she needed help. Or was that Simon who said that?
I cannot recall that part you're referring to. My brain says it was Simon, but I can't remember it clearly enough to tell you.
Well, at any rate, there's a little bit of conversation around like, hey, what is the synagogue's purpose if it's not helping people?
Right.
And so they enter the synagogue during the reading of Deuteronomy 23. There's a few like uneasy pauses as the crowd size basically quadruples, I think, from who was there. Like, this is a very small town and a very small synagogue. And so there's some uneasy pauses, and then Jesus moves over to this man who has a shriveled hand, which I don't think we realized right away, but we see Jesus moving over towards this guy. And then the guy who was doing the reading, as well as another priest, come out, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? They start arguing with Jesus about what is lawful to do on the Sabbath. Jesus ultimately heals the guy's hand. This, as I mentioned earlier, this is basically straight out of Matthew 12. I think they rearranged a little bit from how the order in Matthew 12, but hey, that's par for the course for Matthew anyway, right?
That's right.
So then they go outside, and Simon just starts eating some grain because he's so hungry. Everyone is stunned. They stop. He's like, oh, and he spits it out. And Jesus is like, no, go ahead. And so then they're like, okay, Rabbi says, and they all just go crazy with the grain. And then the synagogue leaders come running out, and they're like, you've done this, and now your followers are doing all this. And yeah, they just have this, this argument about it. And then they leave, and on the way out, Matthew's like, why does the Son of Man title get people so upset?
Yeah. And Philip says, I'll tell you later. Okay, here's my beef with this scene. And I cannot for the life of me figure this out, because this seems, they're so aware there has to be a reason, and I can't figure it out. I can't find it. Maybe I'm historically ignorant. Like, this is so glaring to me. I'm wondering if I'm historically ignorant in this case. I cannot figure out, and I think they've done it somewhere else in season 1 or 2. I can't remember where, but I have it. Why is there somebody in the synagogue dressed like the high priest? I do not understand that. I don't get that. Like, are they because like my thought was maybe there was historical evidence to say that Wadi Kelt was the but they wouldn't know. The high priest wouldn't live there, and the high priest would have been Caiaphas and the house of Annas, and they definitely would have lived in Jerusalem. And I cannot for the life of me figure out, and I want to say there was another synagogue where the other synagogue leader was dressed as a high priest, and maybe that was in Samaria, and I don't quote me, I can't remember if that's correct, but that one bugged me the first time I walked it. I spent all kinds of time on the internet trying to figure out why. I was trying to figure out chosen material. I was trying to look historically, and for the life of me, I have no idea why there's a guy dressed like the high, and just not a priest, the high priest.
Yeah.
He's wearing the Kohen Gadol outfit, like reserved for only one dude who walks into the Holy of Holies once a year. Like, it's just such a wacky, there's got to be something I don't know, but that is super weird to me. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Well, and the closing scene is these synagogue leaders discussing, like, are we going to report this? Are they going to care that we're reporting it? Maybe it'll be a big deal. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll matter that we're from a small place. Maybe that'll be to our advantage. They're arguing about all this stuff, but it's clear that he's not the high priest.
Right.
If there's any doubt, based on, that he's based wherever they are.
Yep.
What'd you say the name of the place was?
Wadi Kelt. I did a whole bunch of study on Wadi Kelt trying to figure out what am I missing? And I cannot find it, but yeah, Wadi Kelt. Just, it's a little bit out of Jerusalem. Wadi that kind of heads towards the Jordan River. Nothing of particular significance and relevance. It's a great spot for,
which is exactly what they're saying.
Right. Yeah. It's weird to me. Super weird. I don't get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the episode. We leave with a few questions, but I like it.
Yeah. And man, what a short little discussion today. There you go.
Yeah. I don't know.
I didn't have a ton of notes. There was just a ton of great dialogue, and I'm not surprised it's a shorter conversation today. It was a wonderful episode, just not a whole lot of juicy stuff to wade through. It was good, straightforward.
There's so many moments where it's like there's really no point in me recreating it because you just are going to get that from watching the show. So mention enough to have our discussion, and hopefully people are just enjoying the show.
Yep. I know I am.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this bonus episode of the BAMA podcast. If you want to get a hold of Marty, you can find him on Twitter at Marty Solomon. I'm at EIBCB. And you can find more details about the show at BAMA.com. So thanks for joining us on the BAMA podcast. We'll talk to you again soon.